Okay guys, so thanks for having me first of all. So as I said, I think this is just a small presentation on lower body training, which is basically on how I train, how I think about training, and what are my preferences for training, what shoes I use, ball, and more information. So let's start and we will see what we will cover here. So as I said, I'm going to give you an insight into my training preferences, mindset for improvement, how I think and reason freestyle, and the schedule for training, which is basically how I structure my training, what I do first, how I follow up, how I warm up, and all that stuff. So the goal is to help you understand better how to improve in lowers and which techniques I use to improve in lowers, so you can try to apply yourself and improve faster. Okay, so my training preferences, we'll start with the shoes. So you should have a pair of shoes that feels 100% comfortable. And as you say today, maybe my shoes were a little bit ripped off, which doesn't allow me to do my best combinations. So my level will be at its top when I have new shoes. For example, when I get a fresh pair of shoes and they are in the best conditions. And you should test many types and find the one that fits you the most and stick to that. And personally, I use the For Freestyle Explore 2 because I tried many different types. I started with Nike Elastico, Pro and Finale. Then I tried the Puma and Puma Light and other types. And then eventually I tried For Freestyle, both models, 1 and 2. And the 2 is like the perfect for lowers. In this presentation, I'm talking about lowers essentially. If you're more of an all-round guy, I think the other type of For Freestyle shoes, the mid model, will be very good. So that's for the shoes. About the ball, we got 3 main choices for lower body training. The first one is the classic match ball. The second one is the For Freestyle ball, the Control V2 I'm talking about, because the first one honestly was not as good as a match ball. The second one is another type of discussion, okay? And the third, the choice you have for lower training is the mountable, which we'll see more in detail, and I think it's worth a mention. We'll see now more in detail each one of these. Okay, so the official match ball. Okay, classic size 5 by Adidas, good grip and durability, we all know that. And you should choose the one you like the most. But why am I telling you this? Because I think even the ball has something to do with the level. For example, I like to freestyle with a clean ball. And what do I mean with that? I mean clean ball with a good design, no distracting colors like black and white, for example. This is a ball I would train with. The Tango, for example, also the For Freestyle ball has a clean design. The Europass, all those balls that are like mostly white and not distracting to the eye, I think those are the best balls to train with. And this is a ball I would not train with, like fully orange ball. You know what I'm talking about, but some people might find those more interesting, so it's up to choice, but personally I train with clean balls, okay? So the second choice is For Freestyle Control ball V2, which is of the same quality of an Adidas match ball. And it is really hard to replicate the quality of an Adidas match ball, but Tobias did it. And it's still a size 5. It might seem smaller, but it's still size 5. So yeah, that's still better than Monta, because with Monta you're going back to 4.5, which is a downside, and we will see it. Then it has a clean design. As I said before, the colors are pretty good. Great control and feeling. Why am I saying this? Because it is called the control ball, but when you freestyle with that ball, I think there is a little bit more control. At least personally, I feel like the ball stays closer to my body and I can freestyle with it like really calm, okay? And it's really worth trying, in my opinion. Okay, let's come to the mountable, which is really debated in the lower body world. And it's a size 4.5, first thing I'm gonna say. Second thing is, it removes some mental blocks. When you start training with Monta, you learn how to do the rotations in a certain way. You learn how to get your foot closer to the ball and gain more time on each revolution. So you can try some tricks with Monta, for example, and then you go back to size 5 and you find that your level has improved. And it also removes some mental blocks, because maybe there are some tricks that you have difficulties trying with size 5. You go back to Monta and it's like the ball is smaller and it's simply easier to try new tricks, because yeah, you can do movements more easily. Then it improves the precision on the revolutions, as I said before. Single tricks feel easier, while with size 5, being the ball bigger, there is less time to complete a move, especially 3 revolution tricks I'm talking about. And with Monta ball, especially think alternative 3 rev, 3.5, and everything that is above and beyond 3 rev becomes easier. And the downside is, it is harder to control than other balls. It is true that single tricks feel easier, but when you go to try a combo, it is more complicated to control the ball and make it go where you expect it to go with a size 5. And it also gives less reward and satisfaction. For example, when I did the first 4 rev, I did it with Monta, but I was not happy. It was just a mental problem, because I did it with Monta and I was like, okay, this is size 4.5 and I know a true football is size 5, so it's like I'm taking 0.5 away, so I should do it with size 5 to have like full satisfaction on something. But that's just me. Another thing is that I never used it longer than 3 months. I don't know if this was like a problem with me, because I got bored after a while, but I always wanted to go back to size 5, because after a while I just felt like my style was much better with size 5, so yeah, that was my choice. But one thing there has to be said is that nearly all the best in lowers, for example, Akim, Memo are the first 2 that come to mind, then Alex Eve, I used it, Kostya used it, Ethan used it, a lot of the big names in lowers used Monta, and I think this is like one thing in common that needs to be considered. So I would advise, if some person wants to become one of the best in lowers, to try at least once to use Monta ball and see how it feels to improve with that. Okay, extra preferences. Apart from the shoes and balls, I also have like other types of preferences, like the location, which is maybe not so important, but it is still important. For me, outside is better to train outside. You can see a lot of times I train in my garage, but that's because weather is so bad where I live. So, but yeah, I think outside is better with the sunlight. My level is like higher. And you should find at least 4 or 5 spots different where you can train, and you can add variety to those locations. Like, I think if you keep switching between locations where you train, it's like you get a different point of view on everything, so it just feels better generally. Switch location regularly. And music. As for me, music is like a personal choice, but as for me, I listen to music from freestyle videos because I like that, and lots of times I keep a song on repeat to make me focus better. I don't know if you have done that as well, but that is me. Okay, so this is just a small table to compare the 3 balls. So the style is much better on Adidas official match ball and for freestyle control, because they are like size 5. Monta, as you have worse style, worse control, worse accuracy in combos. In tricks is more accurate, the Monta. But on the other side, the feeling when you do something, the feeling of juggling is worse, and doing combos also. And the reward from tricks is worse than size 5. But your level can be improved with Monta. Like if you try freestyling with Monta for like 2 weeks, maybe it's not enough to notice a change in level, but once you train for 1 month, 1.5 months, 2 months, you will see like, you will feel like your level is on a different floor, yes? Okay, let's talk a little bit about the mindset now. So to improve as fast as possible, you will need to have a good mindset, and with this I mean that you need to get in the right state of mind for training. For example, one thing I like to do before training is get in the best state of mind possible for training. For example, I watch some video and I'm like, okay, now I want to go train, and I get it like a spark in my mind. I just want to go to train and I'm really motivated on the moment, and I use that moment for extra motivation. You should set goals that you can achieve. For example, I put this in the mindset because a lot of guys tend to be discouraged, especially those that are starting now. If they look at the top and they see one guy doing alternative 3 reps, 4 revolution tricks, they might get discouraged. But what I think is everyone should look at not the best freestyler, but at the next freestyler. Like, you should advance by steps. You should not look at the best, you should just look at who's next to you, who's slightly better than you, so you can move by steps and set goals that you can achieve. And your progress is your progress. I see so many times people compare their progress with mine or their progress with another famous lower body freestyler, but I don't think partial improvement is an indicator of the potential of a freestyler. I think I would have never said after even 2 years that my level could have become like the level I have today. It's almost a surprise, and if you get in the right mindset, you're always in time to have very fast improvement. And the first point is really important. I always make sure I am in the best mental condition to train before I even go to train. As I said before, I watch the videos, so I am already in that mood for training. Before I pick the ball and go to the training spot, I am already with the mind there. And lots of times, Guido will say it's really true, I'm thinking freestyle like without being close to my training session. Even if it's night, I'm thinking, what if this combo is possible? What if this trick can be done in a certain way? I'm always thinking freestyle, basically. Okay, yes, really good way to get in a good state of mind to watch freestyle videos. And when you watch a video of a freestyler that is much better than you and you get a lot of motivation, that's when you should get advantage of it and go out to train. Okay, so let's make the following things clear. So it's impossible to feel always in perfect condition for training, and I mean both in the mind and in the legs. You might feel tired, you might feel also tired in the mind, and it's impossible to feel always motivated. So if you don't feel too good for training, it's okay if you take 1 day off, 2 days off, whatever you think is best, and then go back fresh to training, because the trainings when we have rested are usually the best, because we have fresh mind and fresh legs. So yeah, I noticed this in first person. If I train once and then I skip 2 days and train again, the quality of training will be improved, but the quantity of course is less. So the goal for each one of us is to find like the balance between quantity and quality. And I think each one of us has different times of, how do you say, from going to fresh to tired, back to fresh again. You know what I mean? Each one of us has different times, so we should just find our times and adapt. Okay, all the best. Okay, here I bro. Okay, all the best lower freestyler. There is one common thing, which is they tend to think about the hardest trick as if they are attainable, as if they are not hard. For example, many freestylers, which are even at a really good level, tend to look at the hardest tricks as if they are not reachable. Even when I was starting, when I was after 2-3 years, I used to think about some tricks like, I will never do that. When you think that, it's just starting yourself, because you should never think that. You cannot know. You just have to keep being faithful and keep training, and you might surprise yourself whenever you don't expect it. And it's just a trick. This one is a trick. To say something is easy is not to be arrogant. It's just a trick for the mind. If you keep saying yourself something is easy, eventually it will become easy at some point. Okay, now that we talked about the mindset, it's time to talk about the schedule of my training, which is, I think, the thing you were looking forward the most. So normally I train 1 to 3 hours maximum, 4 to 6 days a week, and one time it used to be maybe more. I used to train maybe even 4 hours, 5 hours a day, in meetings even 8 hours with the ball juggling, because I had a lot of motivation. But at some point it becomes really difficult because it is very intense to do free revolution tricks and all that stuff. Even no-touch combos are really tiring for the body, but we all know lowers, I think, is the most difficult style, at least for what concerns the stamina, the resistance and the power. Okay, so we shall split my training session in parts. So I always start with the warm-up, with the stretching, then I continue with the real training, and then in the end there is the cool down and stretching part. So let's see them more in detail. So warm-up, I start by doing all the easiest tricks. Sometimes I don't do this, but most of the time I just start with normal juggle, ATV, crossover, hop the world, reverse crossover, X-over, all the easiest tricks, even the most stupid ones. I just want to do them to make sure I get in a good consistency mode and I can do as many tricks as possible while juggling. I do this for consistency, because if I can do, for example, 30 basic tricks all with juggles, it means it is a good day and I'm focused with the mind. After this, I do a long combo test, and the long combo test means that I try to do the longest combo possible. And why is it called a test? It is a test because with this I can basically say whether it's going to be a good training or a so-so training. It's not so accurate, but it goes like this. So normally if I do at least 20 tricks first try in the combo, it means it's going to be a good training. If I drop with a basic trick within the first 10 tricks, it might mean that I will have a hard time. This is not always accurate, but it works like that most of the time. The stretching, let's talk about some stretching before going more into my training. So I'm very flexible because I did judo for 6 years, and it was some years ago, like 10 years ago, I did judo for 6 years. Maybe even 13 years ago. And I don't stretch a lot. I only do it when I feel there is something wrong or when I feel some pain in my leg. For example, you saw me maybe earlier that I did this because I feel there is something wrong with my leg. Actually, I skip stretching most of the time because I just want to do combos and train freestyle because that's what I want to do. But this is wrong because stretching should be done as a way to prevent injuries and just help us for all the weird movements we do, because yeah, it's really difficult. Freestyle is not like a delicate sport for our legs, especially lower body. Okay, the warm-up, the part 2. So after the long combo test, I carry on the warm-up, slightly increasing the difficulty. And I will do tricks which go up in difficulty. For example, TATV, MATV, alternative Mitch, Altuzani, all those variations. And I will go to basic no touch, 2 rev, 2.5 rev, Magellan's, backs, and all that stuff. And I try to warm up as many areas as possible. I don't always warm up all the areas because it's hard to warm up them all because there are so many areas. But I do this because I want to get all my areas in lowers ready. For example, if I want to do a combo and put in different tricks, different types of combinations, if I prepared my tricks, I have less possibility to fail and drop the combo. If I skip this part and then I go right into the full training and do like 3 rev combos, there is a high chance that I might drop, for example, on a pallet trick or a lemon mitch. Instead, if I did those tricks before, it's more likely that I will not fail. Okay, in this way I prepare my tricks, but I also do what I call the trick research. So this is really important and it's like the key part of my training routine. And the trick research is like trying to find which tricks are your strongest points on one day in particular. For example, we all have our set of tricks, our repertory, but if you noticed, on some days some tricks seem to be stronger than others.
while on other days, for some reason, you are much stronger on other tricks. So while a lot of freestylers tend to train and keep training repeatedly what they like, for example, I don't know, we all have one friend that likes Magellan and trains just that for 5 years maybe. But we should always adapt to what we see would be the best thing to train on one day. For example, if I see today I'm really good in PATV instead of Eldo, I must train the trick. If I see I'm really good in back ATV instead of Lemens Lusani, I must train back ATV. Always research, find and adapt. And it's never the same because tricks change constantly as you do. I don't know the reason for this, but yeah, the mind, the body changes continuously and the tricks change as well. Okay, so the real training is basically after the trick research, but I know exactly which tricks to train after I've done this trick research, so in a short time I can think of many different combinations that I would like to train on that day. And I just keep doing this, keep repeating combos and keep looking for tricks, continuously repeating it, the trick research for the whole session. So yeah, as I said before, if I see a trick is particularly good on a day, it is a clear indicator I should be training that on a day, and that's the opportunity to improve on that weakness. I do this all the time, and it happens that I work for 5-10 minutes on something and then I switch completely to something else just because I saw there is a particular opportunity to improve on the other thing. For example, I'm training a particular combo, and in that combo at some point I do a free rep that I didn't try before in the session, and for some reason I see I did it really easily. It's time to train to that trick and try to do some more variations with it. And one way of training for me is to improve on a single trick. For example, I pick the trick and I try to think of many different combinations with it. Let's pick parallel around the world, for example. If I was a freestyler and I was in that position when I had learned parallel around the world, if I want to improve in parallel around the world, what I would suggest is to train as many variations as possible, to train, for example, Lemens and then PATV, PATV and then Lemens, Altomi Tusani and then PATV. Try all the different combinations and touches with the trick, and by training all the different variations we'll have fast improvement on the trick. Okay, so there is really not much more to say about the real training because, as I said, the training is just that. I keep repeating the same process all the time until I'm done, until I'm tired. I just do this strict research and keep trying to focus on the tricks that I see are good and the tricks that might motivate me to train. Okay, so after training, a good idea is to stretch as you cool down, and I do this more than in the beginning. I don't know, I think it should be done more in the warm-up than in the cool down, but I do it more in the cool down. And one thing I used to do in the beginning years of freestyle, it used to be a classic at the end of each training, was to try to do a long combo again for as long as possible, just to push my stamina as much as possible, because it's much harder to do a long combo after 2 hours of training, so it will be a bigger challenge for yourself, and it's a really good way to improve your stamina. If you do a long combo in the end of one session, and you try another long combo in the beginning of the next session, the long combo will feel much easier on the following day. Final considerations. I hope I was able to give an interesting point of view on this. And this is just a general guideline. It doesn't mean that I do this in every training literally, because I'm also human. I also change my mind, change my ideas continuously. And it doesn't mean you must follow this A to the Z. If you think you just have to make your choices in your freestyle training and train what you like, because training what you like is always the best way, but training what you like is not maybe the best way to improve as fast as possible. You should also consider what is good to train on a day rather than what you like to train all days. and you should find the balance between those two. And just take it as a different point of view and try to apply it to your trainings. The best solution is always to test and adapt, as I said before. So I wish you all the fast progress in lowers, and thank you. Thanks, guys.